My mother-in-law poisoned the family against me. She didn't realize I recorded the night. She confessed everything. She lifted her glass and smiled at me like a saint. And of course, my mother-in-law said sweetly, "We all know Kamala means well, even if she's been a burden on this family for years." The word burden landed harder than the wine glass touching the table. My husband chuckled, low and nervous. Then his sister laughed. Then the others joined in, one by one, like it was a joke everyone had practiced. I sat frozen, my fork hovering midair, cheeks burning so hot I thought my skin might split. I searched my husband's face, waiting for him to say something. Anything. He didn't. He stared at his plate. My mother-in-law sipped her wine and watched me carefully, pleased. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't family. I was entertainment. Please hit subscribe for more true revenge stories because this dinner was only the beginning. That night, lying awake beside a man who no longer defended me, I realized love hadn't left loudly. It had disappeared quietly while everyone else watched. The next morning felt heavier, like the house itself was avoiding me. I texted my sister-in-law first, a simple good morning. No reply. By noon, I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. I brushed it off until I noticed something else. My husband's cousin, who used to send me recipes every Sunday, had blocked me on social media. Another cousin unfriended me. Then another. By afternoon, the silence screamed. That evening, I overheard my husband on the phone with his mother. He spoke softly, like he was calming a child. "Yes, Mom. I know. You're just worried about the family." When he hung up, I asked what she'd said. He hesitated too long. "She thinks you've been misunderstood," he finally said. That word again. Misunderstood. 2 days later, a neighbor slipped and told me the truth. My mother-in-law had been calling everyone, warning them I was a gold digger. A woman who married for comfort, not love. She didn't shout. She whispered. And whispers travel faster. I found out about the family reunion through a photo. There they were on my phone screen, standing under a banner that read "Family First." Smiling. Arms linked. Plates full. I zoomed in, hoping I'd miss myself somehow. I hadn't. No one had told me. No message. No call. Not even a fake excuse. The caption hurt more than the photo. "Keeping family pure," my mother-in-law had written, with a heart emoji. Pure. I scrolled through the comments. Laughing faces. Inside jokes. Praise for her strength. Someone thanked her for protecting her son. I locked myself in the bathroom and sat on the floor, my back against the tub, phone shaking in my hand. I had cooked for these people. Cared for them when they were sick. Smiled through their insults. That was the day I understood isolation wasn't accidental. It was planned. When my husband came home, I showed him the photo. He shrugged. Mom said it was last minute. I knew then. I wasn't forgotten. I was erased. After that, my husband's voice changed. Every question I asked was met with doubt. Every memory I shared was gently corrected. "Mom just wants what's best," he said whenever I pushed back. If I disagreed, I was sensitive. If I cried, I was dramatic. If I defended myself, I was difficult. His mother never raised her voice. She didn't need to. She planted thoughts in his mind like seeds, then let them grow wild. She worries about how you talk to people. She thinks you don't appreciate what you have. She's afraid you're pulling me away from my real family. Real family. I started writing things down because my own thoughts felt slippery. Did I really say that? Did I overreact? Was I the problem? That was her poison. Not something you could see or taste. It worked slowly, quietly, until I no longer trusted myself. Some nights, I stared at the ceiling and wondered when I'd become the villain in my own life. And worse, why I kept apologizing for it. The birthday dinner was her favorite stage. My father-in-law turned 70 that night, and she made sure everyone came. Long table, fancy plates, candles everywhere. She loved an audience. When it was time for gifts, she stood and clapped her hands. "And this one," she said, holding a box wrapped in bright paper, "is for Kamala." The room went silent. I forced a smile and opened it slowly. Inside were cleaning supplies, sponges, gloves, a bottle of floor cleaner with a bow taped on top. Laughter exploded around the table. "Since you're so good at keeping things tidy," she said, tilting her head. "Thought it fit." My husband laughed too. Not loud, but enough. I felt every eye on me, waiting to see how I'd react. My hands shook, but I smiled. I thanked her. I even joked back. Inside, something cracked. That wasn't humor. It was a warning. She wanted me small, ashamed, quiet. And the worst part? She knew no one would stop her. Later that night, I stood alone in the kitchen, rinsing plates no one offered to help with. The laughter from the living room floated in like smoke. She appeared beside me without sound. "You'll never belong here," she whispered, her voice sharp and low. "No matter how hard you try." I almost dropped the plate. I turned to face her, my heart pounding so loud I thought she'd hear it. She smiled calmly, like she'd just commented on the weather. "My son deserves better," she continued. "And deep down, you know that." I wanted to scream. Instead, I nodded. Years of politeness held my tongue hostage. She leaned closer. "Leave quietly, Kamala. Don't embarrass yourself." Then she walked away, leaving me alone with shaking hands and broken glass in the sink. That was the first time she said it plainly. No jokes. No smiles for others. That night, I cried into my pillow while my husband slept soundly beside me. I finally understood. Her kindness had always been a costume. And now, she'd taken it off. 2 days later, my husband didn't kiss me goodbye. That evening, he sat across from me at the table and asked, "Have you been talking to anyone from your past?" The question felt rehearsed. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Mom said she heard you've been messaging an old boyfriend. Someone from before me." I laughed at first. It sounded ridiculous. Then I saw his eyes. He wasn't joking. "Did you ask her for proof?" I asked quietly. He didn't answer. That silence hurt more than the accusation. He believed her because it was easier than believing me. That night, he watched me differently, like I was a stranger who might lie. I lay awake, staring into the dark, realizing trust had slipped out of our marriage without a sound. One lie from her had done what years of love couldn't protect. I didn't know it yet, but that lie would become her favorite weapon. And it would push me to do the one thing she never expected. From then on, every fight began the same way. Mom said I was careless. Mom said I was selfish. Mom said I didn't respect tradition. And every fight ended with me apologizing. For things I didn't remember doing. For words I never said. I started doubting myself. I reread messages. I replayed conversations in my head until they blurred. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was difficult. That was the gaslighting. It didn't shout. It whispered until my own thoughts turned against me. My husband moved into the guest room, saying he needed space. His mother sent soup and sympathy. She hugged him like a hero surviving something terrible. No one hugged me. I began to feel invisible in my own home, like a guest overstaying her welcome. Some nights, I pressed my hand to my chest just to feel something solid, to remind myself I was still here. That was when I promised myself one thing. If I was going to disappear, I would at least know why. The turning point came by accident. I was walking past the study late one night when I heard her voice through the phone speaker. I stopped without thinking. "I'll get him to divorce her by Christmas," she said, calm and confident. "He's already halfway there." My legs went weak. She laughed softly. "Kamala won't fight back. She's too tired." I didn't breathe. I didn't move. I just listened. That was the moment fear turned into clarity. I went to my room, closed the door, and stared at my phone for a long time. Then I turned on the recording app. From that night on, I recorded everything. If she whispered, I listened. If she planned, I saved it. She thought she was breaking me. She didn't realize she was teaching me how to survive. I bought a small recorder online. Cheap. Easy to hide. I placed it inside the living room clock first. Then inside my purse. Sometimes in my pocket when she visited. Every insult, every lie, every cruel joke she thought no one would catch. Her voice sounded different when she thought she was safe. Sharper.
Proud.
Almost excited. She'll leave eventually, she told a friend once. They always do. I listened late at night, headphones on, hands shaking.
The proof hurt, but it grounded me.
I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining it. The isolation, the lies, the false concern, it was all real. I stopped defending myself. I stopped arguing. I smiled. I nodded. I let her believe she was winning. Because while she was planning my end, I was collecting her truth. And that truth was going to change everything. She chose dinner to perform again. Halfway through the meal, my mother-in-law pressed a hand to her chest and gasped. Her fork clattered to the plate. I feel dizzy, she said, eyes already finding me. Someone asked what she'd eaten. She pointed at my teacup. Kamala made it. It tastes strange. The room exploded into motion. Chairs scraped. My husband rushed to her side. His sister accused me of not cleaning the kettle. Someone asked if I'd used the wrong leaves. I stood frozen while she leaned back, eyes half closed, a faint smile tugging at her mouth. An ambulance wasn't called. She recovered quickly once attention was secured. Later, I heard her whisper, "Stress does terrible things," as if I'd poisoned her with my presence. No one apologized to me. That night, I replayed the recording. I caught the pause before her gasp. The timing. The lie. She wasn't sick. She was rehearsed. After that night, my husband moved into the guest room. He said it was temporary. He said he needed space. He said his mother was worried. I watched him carry his pillow down the hall, without looking at me. His mother checked on him daily. She brought food. She stroked his hair. She told him he was strong. I stayed silent. The house felt colder. Doors closed more often. Conversations happened without me. At dinner, my chair stayed empty until I filled it. Sometimes they'd already eaten. I stopped asking questions. Every answer hurt. Late at night, I listened to my recordings and wrote dates in a notebook. I kept my voice steady when I greeted her. I learned to smile without warmth. She thought she had won. Isolation was her favorite proof of power. But silence gave me something she never expected: time. The garden was where she finally slipped. She was talking to a neighbor over the fence, laughing freely. I had my phone in my pocket, recording without looking. "I saved my son from a snake," she said proudly. "Women like Kamala ruin families." The neighbor gasped. "Good thing you caught it early." She smiled. "Oh, it took patience. A few lies here, a little pressure there." She never stood a chance. My hands shook, but I kept recording. "That fainting spell?" she added. "Brilliant, wasn't it?" They laughed together. When I went inside, my legs nearly gave out. I sat on the bed and listened again just to be sure. It was all there. Her voice. Her pride. She didn't know she'd confessed. She thought she was telling a victory story. My father-in-law stopped talking to me soon after. He used to ask how my day was. He used to thank me for meals. Then suddenly, he avoided my eyes. One afternoon, I overheard her speaking softly to him in the den. "She's been taking money," she whispered. "Small amounts. I didn't want to tell you." I froze outside the door. That night, he asked me if I'd moved funds without telling him. His voice was sad, not angry. I showed him my bank app. Nothing missing. He nodded, but doubt lingered. She'd turned even him. I recorded her later admitting, "He believes me more. He always has." That one sentence hurt more than all the others. She wasn't just lying. She was replacing me. The coffee spill wasn't an accident. She brushed past my desk and tipped the mug straight onto my laptop. Dark liquid flooded the keys. "Oh no," she gasped. "I'm so clumsy." That laptop held years of client work. Contacts.
Drafts. Notes.
I clenched my fists while she apologized sweetly. Later, she told someone on the phone, "Oops. Technology is fragile." I recorded that too. I backed everything up that night, hands trembling. Cloud storage. External drive.
Passwords changed.
She wanted me helpless. Instead, she made me careful. A friend from legal aid met me quietly. "Don't confront her yet," she said. "Gather everything. Let her feel safe." I nodded. From that day on, I smiled more. I thanked my mother-in-law for advice. I stopped reacting. It confused her. She watched me closely, trying to find cracks. But inside, I was building a timeline.
Dates. Lies. Proof.
I wasn't weak anymore. I was waiting. I uploaded every recording to the cloud. Then I wrote an email and scheduled it to send automatically if anything happened to me. My husband's address was first. I didn't want to send it yet. I wanted him to choose truth himself. But I needed protection. For the first time in months, I slept deeply. She cornered me near the stairs. "Leave quietly," she said, "or I'll destroy you publicly." I said nothing. My silence unsettled her. Fear flickered across her face before she masked it. She needed me scared. I wasn't anymore. She invited everyone to dinner again, to make peace. I agreed. My recorder was already in my purse. She thought this was the end. It was only the setup. Mid-meal, she stood. "Kamala can't give us grandchildren," she announced. "She's infertile." The room went silent. My husband looked shattered. I pressed record. When everyone left, she laughed. I cried until morning. Then I listened again, and decided the story would not end quietly. Morning came without comfort. My eyes were swollen, my throat raw, but my mind felt clearer than it had in months. I replayed the recording from the night before, the way my mother-in-law laughed after everyone left, the careless pride in her voice as she spoke about humiliating me. Hearing it again hurt, but it also steadied me. I didn't scream or confront anyone. Instead, I made an appointment with a therapist that same day. I needed a witness, someone neutral, someone trained to see patterns instead of excuses. For the first time, I told the story from the beginning. The insults disguised as jokes. The isolation. The lies repeated until they felt real. Together, we wrote everything down.
Dates.
Exact words. Who was present. Seeing it on paper changed something in me. This wasn't misunderstanding. This was intentional harm. And I finally stopped asking myself what I had done wrong. The weeks that followed were quiet by design. I stopped defending myself. I stopped correcting lies. I let the silence work in my favor. My mother-in-law grew louder, sharper, as if my calm unsettled her more than anger ever had. I documented everything. Every text message, every sudden mood shift, every comment she made when she thought no one was listening. I learned how careful cruelty could be, how it hid behind smiles and concern. My therapist helped me understand what had happened. She called it psychological abuse. Hearing those words didn't weaken me. They gave shape to the pain I'd been carrying alone. I also told one trusted friend the truth, just enough so I wouldn't disappear without someone noticing. That mattered more than I realized. At night, I organized recordings and notes into folders, labeling each one clearly. I wasn't planning revenge yet. I was protecting myself. For the first time, I felt steady again. I wasn't looking for betrayal when I opened the bank statements. I only wanted clarity. But the numbers didn't make sense. Small transfers at first, labeled family maintenance. Then larger ones, spaced carefully, always sent to the same account. Her account. My hands trembled as I added the totals. Thousands of dollars. Money my husband believed was still in savings. Money she had taken quietly while painting me as the problem. Suddenly, her confidence made sense. Her control wasn't just emotional. It was financial too. That night, I recorded her joking about handling money better than men. She laughed as if it were harmless. I closed my laptop slowly and backed everything up. Copies went to secure storage.
Passwords were changed.
Notes were updated. She thought she owned the family. She thought no one would ever check. She was wrong. And this time, the truth wasn't just painful. It was powerful. I invited her to tea on a quiet afternoon. I kept my voice soft, my posture tired. I told her I was exhausted, that I didn't have the strength to keep fighting. I said I was thinking about leaving, about giving her what she wanted. Her smile was instant and bright. She poured herself wine and settled into her chair like someone celebrating a victory. She spoke freely, confidently, believing the battle was over. She didn't notice my phone resting face down on the table, the small red light blinking quietly. She told me I'd never fit in, that she'd done what was necessary to protect her son, that women like me always lost in the end. I nodded. I listened. I asked gentle questions. Inside, my heart raced, but my hands stayed steady. She thought I was surrendering. In reality, I was inviting her to tell her own story, in her own words, with no way to take them back. She talked for more than an hour, and I let her. She bragged about turning relatives against me, about planting doubts in my husband's mind, about repeating lies until they felt like truth. She laughed when she admitted faking illness to make me look dangerous. She didn't lower her voice once. I knew you wouldn't fight, she said, swirling her wine. You're too quiet. I asked her why she took the money. She shrugged and said she deserved it for keeping the family together. She even admitted she enjoyed watching me shrink. Every word was recorded. When she finally left, she hugged me lightly, like a woman showing mercy. I locked the door behind her and slid down to the floor, shaking from head to toe. I wasn't shaking from fear anymore. I was shaking because I finally had everything. The lies, the cruelty, the confession. She thought that night had broken me. Instead, it marked the beginning of her downfall. That night, I didn't rush. I moved slowly, deliberately, like someone handling glass. I listened to the recording twice, then a third time just to be certain nothing was missing. Her voice was clear, confident, full. There was no confusion, no misunderstanding. She had confessed without fear. I made 5 copies, exactly as planned. One went onto a secure drive I hid outside the house. One stayed in cloud storage with a delayed send already scheduled. One I placed in a sealed envelope for my lawyer. One I hid where only I could reach it. The last copy stayed on my phone. I labeled each file carefully, with dates and names. I wrote short notes explaining what each clip contained. I wanted no room for doubt. When I finally lay down, sleep came quickly. Not because I felt safe, but because I felt prepared. For the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was controlling what came next. 2 days later, I asked for family meeting. I kept my message simple. I said I wanted peace. I said I wanted to talk openly, face to face, with everyone present. That word, peace, worked better than anger ever had. They all came. My husband sat across from me, his hands folded, his eyes tired and uncertain. My father-in-law looked nervous. My mother-in-law looked pleased, as if she expected a public apology. She even smiled at me. I waited until everyone settled. Plates were untouched. No one spoke. The room felt heavy with expectation. I asked you here because I don't want secrets anymore, I said quietly. My voice didn't shake. I don't want whispers or stories passed through other people. My mother-in-law tilted her head, already preparing to speak. I raised my hand gently.
Please.
Just listen first. That surprised her. Silence always did. I reached for the speaker I'd brought with me. I didn't explain the recording. I didn't defend myself. I simply pressed play. Her voice filled the room, bright and mocking. She laughed as she spoke about breaking me down. She joked about lies, about faked illness, about money she took without asking. Every word landed hard. No one moved. My husband's face drained of color. My father-in-law's hands began to shake. Someone near the door gasped softly. My mother-in-law stood halfway through the recording. This is taken out of context, she said sharply. I pressed pause and looked at her. There's more. I pressed play again. This time, her voice bragged about winning, about patience, about control. When it ended, the silence was unbearable. It stretched on, thick and heavy. No one defended her. For the first time, she looked small. No one spoke for nearly a minute. Then my father-in-law stood up, so suddenly his chair scraped loudly against the floor. His face was red, his eyes wet with fury and shame. Is this true? He asked her. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. My husband stared at the floor, tears slipping down his face. He didn't look at her.
He didn't look at me.
He just breathed, slow and broken. She tried to laugh. You don't understand. I understand enough, my husband said quietly, finally looking up. His voice cracked. You lied to me. You lied about everything. She reached for him. He pulled away. One by one, people stood. Some left without a word. Others shook their heads as they passed her. When my husband stood, he walked to my side. That was the moment she lost them. Not because I spoke, but because she did. The aftermath moved quickly. My lawyer sent formal notices the next morning. Defamation, emotional abuse, financial misconduct. Everything documented. Everything backed by her own voice. She called me dozens of times. I didn't answer. When my husband saw the bank records, something inside him broke cleanly. He froze her access to every shared account. No warnings. No discussions. She came to the house crying that night, saying I'd ruined the family. I met her at the door and didn't let her inside. You did this, I told her calmly. I just stopped covering for you. She had no response. By the end of the week, the family had split. Most chose distance from her. A few stayed silent. That was fine. Justice didn't need applause. It needed truth. And truth had finally spoken louder than fear. The family did not heal overnight. It fractured, slowly and loudly. Half of them stopped answering her calls within days. Others sent careful messages saying they needed space. No one defended her the way they once had. My husband stayed quiet at first. He watched, listened, and reread the recordings on his own time. Each time, his shoulders sank lower. Guilt settled into him like a weight he could no longer shift. I should have protected you, he said one night, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer right away. Some apologies need time to reach the place they're meant for. She tried to regain control, calling relatives, rewriting stories, but the recordings followed her everywhere. Truth had a way of traveling faster than lies once it was released. For the first time, she was the one being avoided. And I no longer felt invisible. My lawyer moved faster than she expected. A formal notice arrived at her door detailing defamation, emotional abuse, and financial misconduct. It wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. It was precise. She called my bluff immediately, leaving messages filled with anger and disbelief. She said I didn't have the courage to follow through. She was wrong. The bank completed its investigation within weeks. The transfers were traced. The excuses didn't hold. When my husband saw the final report, something in him hardened. He froze her access to every account connected to him. No speeches. No warnings. She had built her power on money and fear. Both were gone now. She came to the house crying on a rainy afternoon. Her hair was unstyled. Her coat hung loose on her shoulders. She looked smaller than I remembered. You've destroyed the family, she sobbed. I stood in the doorway and didn't step aside. No, I said calmly. You destroyed it. I just stopped lying for you. She reached for my arm. I pulled back. I begged you to leave quietly, she whispered. And I begged you to stop, I replied. She left without another word. I locked the door and leaned against it, breathing slowly. For the first time, the house felt like mine. My father-in-law came alone a week later. He didn't bring excuses. He didn't defend her. He sat across from me with his hands folded and his eyes down. I believed her, he said. And I was wrong. That apology mattered, more than he knew. He told me how she'd shaped every story, every concern, every doubt. How carefully she'd controlled what people saw. I'm sorry you carried that alone, he said. I nodded. That was enough. When he left, I cried quietly, not from pain, but from release. I had been seen. The damage didn't stay inside the family. It leaked outward, quietly at first, then faster than anyone expected. People stopped calling her. Invitations disappeared. The same women who once praised her devotion now avoided her at the market and church. No one argued with her. No one confronted her. They simply stepped back. I heard about it from others. A canceled committee meeting. A charity board quietly asking for her resignation. A neighbor who stopped returning her greetings. She had built her life on being admired, on being seen as the heart of the family. Without that image, she didn't know who she was. One afternoon, I saw her across the street, standing alone, watching other women laugh together. She looked confused, like someone searching for a door that no longer existed. I didn't feel joy. I felt justice. Because the lies that once protected her were gone, and the silence that surrounded her now was the same silence she had wrapped around me for years. The legal process ended without drama, exactly the way truth usually does. No shouting. No courtroom spectacle. Just documents, signatures, and consequences. She was ordered to repay every dollar she had taken. The judge's words were calm, almost bored, as if her behavior wasn't shocking at all. Just unacceptable. She agreed to a settlement that included a strict no-contact order.
She couldn't call me, text me,
speak about me publicly. My name was no longer hers to use. When I signed the final paper, my hands didn't shake. I felt steady, grounded. Justice didn't feel loud or exciting. It felt quiet and firm, like a door closing gently but forever. As I walked out of the building, I realized something important. I wasn't waiting for an apology anymore. I wasn't hoping she'd understand what she'd done. Understanding wasn't required. Accountability was. And this time, she couldn't escape it. My husband moved us out of his parents' house a month later. Not because I asked, but because he finally understood what those walls had held. We rented a small place across town.
It wasn't fancy,
but it was quiet.
Honest.
He started therapy on his own. He stopped interrupting. He listened. One night, after dinner, he asked if I could forgive him. His voice wasn't desperate. It was careful, like someone who knew forgiveness couldn't be demanded. I told him the truth. Forgiveness might come someday, but forgetting never would. And trust had to be rebuilt slowly with actions, not words. He nodded. He didn't argue. That mattered. Healing didn't arrive all at once. But for the first time, it felt possible. Not because the past was erased, but because it was finally acknowledged. Months later, she came to see me again. She looked older, smaller. Her confidence had faded into something brittle. She asked if we could talk. I didn't let her inside. We sat on the porch, the space between us clear and firm. She spoke about regret, about loneliness, about how everything had gone wrong. I listened without interrupting. When she finished, she asked if I hated her. I told her no. Hate would keep her too close to my heart. I had chosen distance instead. She asked if we could ever be family again. I told her boundaries were not punishment. They were protection. She nodded slowly, like someone learning a language too late. When she left, I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. On our anniversary, my husband cooked dinner himself. No guests, no speeches. Just the two of us at a small table. Halfway through the meal, he raised his glass.
To Kamala, he said.
For showing me the difference between love and control. The words didn't feel rehearsed. They felt earned. I lifted my glass, but didn't rush to smile. I let the moment settle. That night wasn't about forgetting what happened. It was about standing in truth without fear. For years, I had been taught to stay quiet to keep peace. That night, peace came because I had stopped being quiet. It wasn't perfect, but it was real.
And real was enough.
The recording still sits in my drawer. I don't listen to it anymore. I don't need to. Its power isn't in the sound.
It's in what it gave me.
The night she confessed, she thought she was breaking me. She thought her words would finish what her lies had started. Instead, she told the truth out loud. And truth, once spoken, doesn't belong to the speaker anymore. It belongs to everyone who hears it. I keep the recording as a reminder. Not of pain, but of strength. Of the moment I stopped shrinking and started standing still. Revenge didn't look like yelling or destruction. It looked like clarity. And clarity gave me back my life. If this story stayed with you, like the video, subscribe for more powerful revenge stories, and tell me in the comments what part hit you the hardest.